Kayleen Ray will be our moderator this evening. Please listen closely to her rules regarding the question and answers for the candidates as well as questions from the audience. Thank you.
Election day is Saturday, May the 9th, and early voting for this election began today, and it goes through May 5th. So just wanted to note that so you'll know when the election is going to be held. Timekeepers. We will be using time limits set out in the debate rules. So to help adhere to these time limits, we have timekeepers here in the front row. All candidates, please note where they are. And the timekeepers for tonight's debate are Jan Rudnicki and Courtney Jordan. Hold up your hands, please, so the candidates can see where you are. They will be holding up signs to let you know when your time is elapsing. Before we begin, I will read the rules of the candidates' debate. These rules have been provided to all of the candidates. Introductory remarks. The two candidates for the District 1 race will be presented together first. When their debate portion is over, all candidates for the at-large position will be presented. All candidates will be presented in ballot order. At the beginning of the debate, each candidate will have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. This time should be used for introduction and to address the issues. Timekeepers will hold up cards showing the countdown of time. A card indicating 15 seconds remaining will be a signal for the candidate to conclude his or her remarks. When the time has elapsed, the timekeeper will hold up the stop card indicating that the time has ended. The candidate should conclude his or her sentence at that time. Feel free to finish your sentence. We don't mean for you to stop in mid-sentence. There will be no substitute speakers. If a candidate is unable to attend the debate, he or she may submit a statement to be read by the moderator. The same 1-minute time limit will apply to the written statement. The moderator will stop reading when the time is ended. Debate. The moderator will direct a question heard by the lead to the candidates in rotating order. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. The candidate to whom the question was first directed will then be given 30 seconds for rebuttal. Each candidate will have a chance to answer first and then give a rebuttal. Audience questions. At the conclusion of the lead debate portion for each race, questions may come directly from the audience. Questioners must approach the podium over here. Each questioner should identify themselves prior to asking a question. Questioners may direct their questions to any and or all of the candidates. Questions should not include personal attacks against any candidates, but should stick to the issues. Questions can be no longer than 30 seconds. Each candidate will have 1 minute to address the question, and there is no rebuttal in that section. Timekeepers will indicate to the moderator when the time has elapsed, and I will be asking questioners and candidates to stop when their time is up. Preference will be given to questioners who have not yet asked a question. Closing remarks. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make closing remarks. At this time, will the candidates for the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District, District 1 position, please take their places at the podium. The two candidates for this position are Danny M. Gonzalez and Miguel Arredondo. Mr. Gonzalez is not here tonight. So we will begin with opening statements. Mr. Arredondo is going to make your opening statement.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the league for hosting tonight's debate and also to recognize, I think, the 3 trustees who are here tonight. Mrs. Costilla, Dr. Judy Allen, and Mrs. Hanson. Thank you for your service. My name is Miguel Arredondo. I'm a 5th generation San Marcan and a recent product and proud product of the San Marcos CISD. I'm running very simply to make our schools better. I think for a number of years we've had a board that has not set a distinct vision for our schools to raise the bar for all students and to provide resources for those teachers and those staff members who impact students each and every day. And for a number of years, we've talked about facilities and construction, and, the cosmetic issues affecting the San Marcos CISD. But now it's time to talk about academics. It's time to raise the bar in San Marcos CISD schools and to say that we can do better and allocate those resources to do better. Thank you.
I'll move to the first lead question. What strengths and weaknesses do you see in the San Marcos school system?
I think one of the biggest strengths that we've had recently is community engagement in our schools. A number of churches, nonprofits, and civic organizations have realized that it's not just the school district's responsibility to educate our children. Public schools are community schools, and we need more community engagement. I think that's one of our biggest advantages, just like having our own university here that graduates more teachers than any other college in Central Texas. Those are two very strong resources our school district has. I think one of the biggest challenges our school district faces is this perception that we're the only school district impacted by local economies, whether it's poverty or lack of education from parents. We've used this as a crutch to explain why our test scores are the way they are. And I think we need to realize that that is not an excuse for low expectations.
Describe an experience which has prepared you to understand and resolve complex budget issues.
I think being a college student and working a minimum wage job and paying for rent and car insurance, at least in a small way, you realize that you only have so much money to do so many things. I think our school board needs to acknowledge that the money we spend each and every day is not just my money or my parents' money, but this community's money. You know, having a fund balance of $30 million, I think, has gotten our school board very comfortable with large expenditures. But we need to realize that not too many years ago, our school district was in dire financial straits because we got comfortable with spending. I think that's something that we need to keep in mind, and I think it's ironic that although I don't own property and I live in an apartment complex in our school district, for a number of years I've been speaking about fiscal responsibility, and yet all of you pay more school district taxes than I do. I'm sure it's factored into my monthly rent, but we need to talk about fiscal responsibility in our schools. I think it's a long time coming. Thank you.
What is the role of a school board trustee?
I think the role of a school board trustee is to set expectations and to establish a vision with your fellow board members, and then kind of put your money where your mouth is and allocate the resources and the materials that are needed to accomplish that vision. You know, I've spoke to the Teachers Association here several weeks ago at the public library, and I acknowledge that we know that they pay for school supplies out of their own pocket. Why doesn't a board member say that that is not appropriate? Why don't board members say we need to do more to make sure that our teachers are not worrying about their contribution to healthcare so that they can focus on the students in those classrooms each and every day? I think our board needs to take a more active role, and I think that's what their responsibility is to be advocates for the concerns of the community, not just their own personal agendas, but to be readily available to take that phone call from that neighbor or that voter, that taxpayer, and bring that perspective and that voice to the board.
How can education be made more relevant to students?
Having a community that is impoverished as we are, the connection is not made between educational advancement and fiscal, solvency. We haven't emphasized the significance of an education, whether it's a trade school, whether it's a certification, whether it's a four-year university. We have not emphasized that enough in public schools. I think that's something that our school district is in desperate need of, and that's why it's so hard for teachers to get students engaged in algebra and social studies and science. Because, I'm one of those people who likes instant gratification. So reading a 1,000-page textbook really doesn't seem that impactful to me, but when I'm in a college calculus class, I realized why that homework was so important. And that's what we need to emphasize is the relevancy of their academics and how this is going to be something that stays with them the rest of their lives.
Thank you. Are there questions from the audience for this candidate? not, then we'll move to closing statements. You have 1 minute to close, closing remarks.
Once again, I'd like to thank the league for hosting tonight's candidate debate, or in my case, I guess, candidate forum. Again, I think what this emphasizes is the challenge of single-member districts. It's hard for people to understand who to vote for or when to vote for them. I think our school district needs to do more to educate voters in the significance of single-member districts and how we need to play an active role in having representation all across our school district and our school board. And I hope that if you know anyone in District 1 or if you have any neighbors or friends who live there, that you encourage them to cast their ballot for me. And I think it is a testament to our schools when we have 9 candidates running for 3 school board seats. It's been a long time coming to turn the page in our public school system and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you have a question as to whether you might be in District 1 or if you're not, I understand there's a map at the back that can help you figure out if that is your district and if that will be on your ballot. At this point, will the candidates for the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District Board Member at Large positions please take their places at the table? There are 7 candidates in this election. All of these candidates will appear on the ballot together. You can vote for up to 2 of these candidates, so it's a little unusual. It's a little bit different than most elections. The candidates for this position are Jesse Ponce Jr., Mike Arcolini, Toby Hooper, Adam Gonzalez, Sophia C. Downing, John W. McLaughlin, and Ann Halsey. Begin with opening statements. Mr. Ponce, you have
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody out. My name is Jesse Ponce. I'm a lifelong resident here. My parents, I went to the San Marcos School District as well. I worked with the CISD School District, and I've been over there for 13 years. I worked in the maintenance department, and actually got involved with a lot of administrators in that school district and with the superintendent over there. And that's kind of how I got interested in running for the board here, and kind of saw a lot of good things happening at the Hayes School District, and wasn't really seeing them over here in San Marcos, but once I served on the board 3 years ago, I realized that, our district is not as bad as people make it seem, and I'm really interested in getting back on and learning a little bit more, and that's what my first 3 years was about on the board, is just learning how the board runs. So I'm really interested in helping out and working together with our administrators, superintendent, and our staff, and making this district a better place.
Mr. Arcolini.
Thanks to the league for hosting this event and to all of you for attending. I'm running for school board because I believe our school district can do better. The way we do better begins not with a slick marketing message about how great we are, but rather with an honest look at ourselves in the mirror. We must not only celebrate our strengths, but we must also face the truth and acknowledge our weaknesses. It is embarrassing to admit that we are ranked in the bottom third of districts in Texas, and our high school is ranked in the bottom fourth. But this is the first step on the road to improvement. It is time to stop throwing money at our problems. Let's return to the basic values of education that empower people to improve their lives and those of their families.
Mr. Hooper.
Thank you. My family and I have lived in San Marcos for 14 years. I had 2 girls graduate from the high school and a boy who's doing very well at his school. We're very pleased that his educational level and the service is being delivered to him. I think we have some positive things in this district. I think we're on the rise, but I also think that we're at a turning point where we can boost and go higher to being a high-performing school district. But being a high-performing school district starts with a high-performing school board. And that's really what I want to focus on, because you look at all the challenges we have, name any one of them. Poverty, dropout rates, academic skills, anything. You won't be able to address those things adequately unless you have a high-performing school board that works well together. That's what I want to bring to the table here. And shifting that model, shifting that culture, and valuing our teachers and our staff, and making sure that they are in high self-esteem when they go in the classroom.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Again, I'd like to thank the league for holding this debate. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for coming out here as well. My name is Adam Gonzalez. I'm currently a senior at Texas State University studying electrical engineering. As an engineer, I excel at problem solving, and I consider the finances in this district to be one of my expertises. I believe in looking through our budget and solving our financial challenges. Currently, we are spending 1 in 4 revenue dollars on our debt, and I think that's a problem. And I'm definitely here to look at our budget and see what we can do to make sure that we solve our financial challenges. Thank you very much.
Ms. Downey?
I just got my voice back a couple of days ago, so I hope it doesn't start cracking. My name is Sophia Downey. I'm the owner and director of Little Bobcats Early Learning Center here in San Marcos. I'm running on the board because I feel as though there's missing links between the alignment of early education, primary years, and the senior years. I'm concerned about the future of the community. I'm concerned about the broken links between the school system. And I'm also running because my past experience and present position as an educator and as an administrator are assets that the board could use. I want to align education from early childhood through 12th grade. I'm a parent of children here in the district, and it just concerns me about some of the problems that they've had to face. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Hi, I'm John McLaughlin, also running for one of the at-large spots in the San Marcos School Board. I appreciate the league hosting this debate. I remember coming to league debates when I was in high school and college, and the early times I voted, so it's kind of funny being up here in this role. Anyway, I grew up here in San Marcos. My parents had a flooring store, and they're here tonight. Thanks for being here. So I understand the challenges that our schools are facing. I've seen too many local children leave school unprepared for college, or unable to get a job at a good wage. So as a parent of 4, I want to make sure our kids get the best education they can, and that no one is left behind. And as a local attorney, I feel I understand the consequences that come from a lack of leadership. And I hope to be a part of restoring a board that functions at a high level and is able to help solve the problems that the schools face. The schools are where we change San Marcos. So I'm asking for your support to try to make that happen. Thank you.
Ms. Halsey?
Thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm Ann Halsey, and I'm a mom who believes in public schools. I have 2 kids currently in the district, and my youngest will start kinder in the fall. When we went to put our oldest into kindergarten, many people told us we should not put our kids in San Marcos Public Schools. We were shocked, but we decided to assess the schools for ourselves, and thank goodness we did. For 5 years now, our kids have been thriving. My parents were public school educators in Iowa. My dad's sitting in the back over there. And I'm a proud product of and champion for public education. I'm running for the Board of Trustees because I believe public schools are the backbone of a healthy community. If chosen for this position, I will work tirelessly to make our schools the very best that they can be. I have toured every one of our campuses over the last few weeks, and I can say with certainty that great things are happening in our district every day. I have seen exceptional teachers and administrators at every turn. We have to send a new message to every child and family in San Marcos. You belong here, and you will thrive here.
The league has prepared questions for each candidate, so there are 7 questions. So we'll begin with the first question, will be to Mr. Ponce, and we will have 1 minute to answer the question. All of the candidates will have 1 minute, then we'll come back, and you'll have 30 seconds for rebuttal. First question. How active have you been in the San Marcos schools?
Question was how active?
How active have you been in the San Marcos schools?
Well, I know when I was on the board, that was my biggest part, was just being on the campuses, talking to the teachers, the principals on campus, and spending time with the children. You know, that's what I bring. Over at Hayes, I do a lot of volunteer work over there with the students and stuff, and that's what I want to do here, is get involved with the campuses, find out what the needs are of the teachers and what the students need on the campuses, and focus on those things more. I'm really not focused on the politics part of it. I want to be an honest person that can work with people and work together with the board and get things accomplished, and listen to our administrators and our professionals that know what education is all about. What are their needs? And that's what I want to focus myself on.
Mr. Rockman?
Moved here in '92. Our twins were born in '95. They started kindergarten in about '99 or so, 2000, at Bowie, the forest school, the school where the roof leaked and there were squirrels living in the attic. I was on the PTO, Student Health Advisory Council, Education Foundation, and then got drafted into working on facilities. In 2003, if you recall, there was a proposal for a bond to build new schools, a new high school. I volunteered to be the treasurer of the Political Action Committee to pass the bond to build these new schools. That was in 2004. In 2005, 2006, volunteered at 5th grade on Mondays, and my wife volunteered on Fridays.
Mr. Cooper?
My involvement in awareness began in the summer of '01 when we moved to San Marcos. We had been educators overseas, and I decided to accept a position actually at the high school. Taught there for a year, and had that vantage point of then and now. Also, currently I've gone to a lot of events, school board meetings, kept up with school board decisions, looked through budgets, and talked to a whole lot of parents, interacted with a whole lot of teachers, asking them to give me the unvarnished truth, please. And all of that, I think I have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the district. Being an educator in the past, again, there's a lot of experience where I can compare to other systems and things that I've seen before. Again, taught overseas, and that was a private school setting, but I've also taught at schools that were, when it comes to poverty, they were at the bottom, and really struggling.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Everybody, I've been very active in political initiatives here in San Marcos, and I've been doing my best to do what I can for the community. One thing I'm really good at is that I'm a good listener. And I believe in listening to students, I believe in listening to teachers, and all the teachers that I've talked to, they want to be more competitive in our district, so we can have better teachers, we can have better students. As the most recent beneficiary of the public school system, I believe best to our current students, and I believe that we need to put them first in our concerns.
Ms. Downing?
I have a son in Bowie Elementary. He's in the 5th grade. I had 2 daughters in Goodnight Middle School, where I went on field trips. I also visit my son's school. I try to be as active and physical as possible. But mostly with the district, my involvement is preparing the children to excel in the school as they pass through my learning center. And the way I do that is by speaking to other parents in the district and by looking at the curriculum so that we can know how to prepare them so that they can excel. And that's how I've been involved with the school district. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up here, so did my wife, Marissa lives in the back. Between us, we attended school at all but about 2 campuses, and that's just because they weren't around back then. So we've seen the schools from the inside out right now. Our oldest son is a sophomore in the high school, and I think Marissa's going on a field trip at Hernandez tomorrow. Most of our recent involvement has been at Travis Elementary, where we've led an initiative to match about 150 kids with mentors in the community. Kids from underprivileged homes or single family homes. We've also done some other initiatives at Travis, Affordable Christmas, and other things. And through that, I felt that the only chance we would ever have to not need 1,000 mentors for 1,000 years is if we all pitched in and gave these kids everything they need in their education and empowered them to reach further than the parents did before. And so that's why I decided to run.
Ms. Halsey?
I'm a mom of 2 kids currently at Crockett Elementary School. My daughter's been there for 5 years. My son is in 1st grade. I'm the mom that shows up for every parent-teacher conference, every school field trip, every fundraiser, every bake sale, every STEM fair, every open house. I volunteer in the classroom. I have worked tirelessly to be an advocate for my children in their public school curriculum. I have worked with teachers, administrators, and I will work diligently on behalf of all of our students if I'm elected to the board.
Mr. Halsey, you have.
Just to add on a little bit more, I spend a lot of time on the campuses. I love all the sporting events. I'm a big sports fan. I love, you see me at all the basketball games, football games, and some of my nieces are in the choir at the high school, and so I attend a lot of those things, so I do spend a lot of time on the campuses.
Mr. Aquilini, the next question is yours. In your opinion, what are the 3 most important issues facing the Board of Trustees over the next 4 years?
Stewardship of our taxes. Our taxes are higher than New Braunfels, Wimberley, and Homau. Our debt is 40% more per student than Hayes, with all their building, and New Braunfels. Next is academic achievement. As I mentioned in my opening comment, the unfortunate truth is that our scores are below the state averages. They are that way now. They've been that way for a decade. And neighboring districts are much better. Last, community involvement. And by that I don't mean all of you selling pickles at Crockett. I mean that the school board takes responsibility for public education in San Marcos.
Mr. Cooper, you have 1 minute to address that question.
I look at these things really as tasks that need to be completed. I would say, first and foremost, we need to create a strategic plan with clear goals. And once you have those goals set, then you align all resources and budget accordingly. Some of those goals that need to be addressed, we've got growth coming up. We need to think about facilities and shifting around class size, putting more resources into instruction, bolstering our employee benefit package, especially our teachers, to retain the best and the brightest and to attract the best and the brightest, because many of those graduates of the university in town are leaving town as soon as possible. And then also, I would say the long-term plan, 10 and 20 years down the road. Are we visioning that far ahead? What kind of child do we want to develop? What kind of kid do we want to graduate from our high school being ready for life?
Mr. Gonzalez?
Of course, I believe we need to increase community involvement. I think it's a good thing that our current board has been wanting to televise school board meetings. That's obviously a good thing. We can improve upon that. Of course, we need to increase academic achievement, and I believe money and education are very closely tied, which leads to the third challenge, which is our budget. As I said earlier, we are spending 24% of our local revenue just on paying debt. That's 1 in 4 of your dollars going straight to debt. That's obviously a problem that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Ms. Downey?
I would say first collaborating with parents, the school, and the community, bringing that unity together and using the community as resources, the parents as resources. Second, I would say to focus on the children's needs, interests, and listening to the voices of others instead of our own. The children and the families and the parents all have something to say about what changes they want to see in this district. And they've come to me once I told them that I was running, and they would say, if only someone would ask me. And so I think that we need to make that shift. And then thirdly, I would say review other curriculum models across the other states. I did some research last night on the top schools in the United States. And if we were to look at some of those curriculum models and adopt some of those, then we can also be on that list of the top school in the United States.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Could you repeat the question, I'm sorry?
In your opinion, what are the 3 most important issues facing the Board of Trustees over the next 4 years?
Thank you. First, I think the class sizes we have across all of our campuses are too large. And I think we need to dedicate more resources into the classroom to bring those down. Our average 5th grade class is 32 kids in it. I mean, I haven't taught 5th grade before, but I think that would be quite a challenge. So more teachers, more classrooms. Second, college readiness and the dropout rate. Those things are tied together. But as I mentioned before, I've seen too many kids leave school unprepared for college. We have about a 44% college readiness measure, and that needs to be higher. And we still have too many kids dropping out, about 1 in 10. Either dropping out, they're consigning themselves to a life of low-wage work, and that's no path forward. So we need to keep more of our kids in school. And last, our teacher turnover rate, to me, is unacceptably high. We're losing some of our best. We're losing some of our most senior teachers. We're losing some of our brightest young teachers to neighboring districts. We've got to do more in regard to helping the teachers out by controlling their class sizes, by helping them out on their health insurance so that they don't have to put so much out of pocket, and by increasing salaries.
Ms. Halsey?
I believe that expanded early childhood education combined with a K through 12 curriculum that builds on the success of that pre-K program is critical to us closing the achievement gap. I'm glad that the voters in our district recently decided to prioritize high-quality pre-K and pass the bottom preschool bond. One, we need now to make sure that early childhood education can succeed by decreasing the teacher-to-student ratio in that preschool. 2, we need to accelerate the rollout of high school academies. We have too many teenagers who cannot wait another year to succeed. And 3, we must develop a plan to take care of our teachers with competitive compensation packages that attract and retain and reward the best and the brightest.
Mr. Fonseca?
Yes, like a lot of them mentioned, our struggles with our finances, every year seems, the budget, the state keeps taking money from the school districts, and we have to do more with less. We have to find ways to cut costs. I think in a lot of energy management, we can take a big look at energy management in the district and find ways to save money. We can put it back and give it back to the students. Also with our teachers, keeping our teachers here, we've got to offer them more, do more for them so that they can have incentive to want to stay, to not be always looking around at other districts. That's the bottom line, is they need more. Just from, they were talking about the teachers buying their own supplies and stuff. That's just unacceptable. We can't have that. And then also getting the number of students per teacher in classrooms, getting that lowered also, that we do need more classrooms and more space.
Mr. Eichelin, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Superintendent turnover. We've had 9 superintendents in 27 years. That's about 1 every 3 years. It's a problem statewide, it's a problem nationwide. We're not alone. In San Marcos, you have to go back almost 50 years to find a superintendent that stayed here on the job for more than 6 years. As a community, as a school board, we have to embrace this as reality and no longer wait for Superman.
What do do you see as the school board's role in promoting our school district within the community?
The leaders, like cheerleaders, we need to be out in the community. I think leadership begins on the board. You know, the board hires the leaders in the leadership structure. So the board has to set that example of being the exemplary leader. Now, exemplary education begins with an exemplary board. So not being passive, just being there in the administration building twice a month, but being out in the community as well. I mean, I would like to see a series of, outside of board meetings, town hall meetings, where parents, anyone from the community has access to board members. Board members going to different organization functions to put on presentations of how things are going and to field questions. So I think the board should be in a leadership role in that sense. If you don't want to be out in the community, you know, doing those good works, then you really should be running for board.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Cooper, you absolutely made some good points. You're absolutely right. We do need leadership on the board. One thing we need to do is educate parents and teachers specifically about what the board is wanting to do. I don't think that we should have closed sessions on the school board. I believe everything should be open, everything should be transparent, and we should go above and beyond our way to inform parents about the policies that we would like to implement. Additionally, we need to invite a lot more people to get involved into the public discussion of what is going on in the board. I think the turnout is too low for people coming to school board meetings. I think we need more community involvement because after all, it is y'all's district and we need to know what it is that you are concerned about so we can evolve to that. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
We've heard a couple of statements ago about the community being more involved, and about the board members being more visible, more approachable. Again, parents at my learning center, they told me that, you know, we need more people like you on the board because you are approachable and you do listen and you're adaptable and you're flexible. And I think that those are very important roles with promoting our district to show that we listen and we care. And it's not just all about me, or my decision, that it's about the community's decision and that we need to focus more on the children of this community as well. And I think that's what our role should be.
Mr. McLaughlin?
I think the current board has done a really good job of promoting the school district in the community. Over the last 3 years, we've seen them highlight things that are going well, and I've found all of the board members, without exception, to be approachable. So I think we want to continue to build on that and the good steps and strides that have been taken in that area by being approachable ourselves as a new board and by continuing to highlight things that are going well and give praise where it's been earned. I also think that the best thing we can do as a board to promote the school district in the community is to make the decisions and use our resources in a way that helps bring this district to a world-class district with a great reputation universally, where we don't have to talk about whether it's perception or reality, but everybody knows that their kids are going to get a great education in San Marcos and that there's no need to look elsewhere. I think that's the board's primary job in promoting. Then the promotion will take care of itself. Parents will talk, and the community members will talk, and teachers will want to come here. Thanks.
Ms. Halsey?
First of all, I think we need board members who are willing to work constructively and cooperatively together to put aside whatever differences they may have outside of the room and agree that together they're focusing on the mission of the organization and the benefit of the children. In addition to that, I feel like board members need to be very vocal and visible champions for our public schools. They need to be accessible, they need to listen to community concerns and be responsive. I think finally that board members need to have the time and the commitment and are willing to put in and devote themselves to what it takes to understanding how our schools work and also what our schools need to do better.
Mr. Ponce?
Yes, I think also, yes, get the word out, you know, lot of times it's just so unfortunate with the media, you know, that the bad news sells and that's what seems to get out all the time. But we know there's a lot of positive things going on in our district, and we just need to do a good job of getting out there, talking to the public, and that's why I like attending all the sporting events, because when I was on the board and was out there, people were always coming up to you and asking you questions and wanting to know things, and that's what we need to do, is be out there, ready to talk about our district and all the positive things that are happening. I know they had sound bites when I was on the board, and they had a bunch of positive things about the district, and that's what we need to do, is get that word out, because sometimes the media just doesn't help us, you know, and they just want to focus on the negative.
Mr. Roccolini?
The board is obviously a representation of everyone, and our schools are our schools, it's not their schools. I would suggest that we all own our challenges, we own our successes, but we're also transparent about the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. That's how we get better. When you're a coach in athletics, you don't keep practicing the stuff that's already mastered. You practice the stuff that needs improvement. When I'm a math teacher, I don't keep teaching the times tables. I focus on what the student misses on the test. That's the area that needs improvement. And I think a board often sits back and celebrates their successes because that's the most fun. Well, it's human nature. It's tough. It's tough to face the hard things, the failures. But that's what we have to do as leaders. We have to face the difficult questions and share those questions and answers with the public, you.
Mr. Hoover, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I agree with Mike. Being proactive, you know, raising expectations, but going out in the community and being that high expectation. You know, working with community groups and parents, and putting together committees or work groups that can drill down on the problem. Being honest, this is our issue, this is our challenge. Help us work through this, because there's a lot of smart minds out there in our community. Why hire a consultant when we have so many intelligent people in the community? So really getting out there and working with the community to address these challenges.
Mr. Gonzalez, next question is for you. If elected, what would you anticipate will be your greatest challenge as a school board trustee?
That's a great question. Thank you very much. As I said, I think education and money are very closely tied, and one of my expertises is understanding our budget very well. In fact, I got all the numbers memorized in my head. Currently, we are $177,995,000 in debt as of fiscal year 2014. We're not expected to pay that off until 2038 at a total cost of $300 million. That's if bonds are mature. That means that we're going to be spending $122 million just on interest. That means in order to borrow $1.80 today, we have to spend $3 later. That's obviously a problem, and that's anticipating that we're not going to have another bond between now and 2038. I've gone through our entire budget, and I think that we definitely have some financial challenges there. When we're spending 24% local revenue on debt, I think our debt is holding us back. That's money that's not going directly into the classroom, and I think that is why we are being low in our performance. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
One of my greatest challenges would be understanding the budget, how it works, and a lot of the political issues, because I don't really do politics very well. I'm an educator. My focus is on educating young children. I'm a mom, and I look at what my children need. I have a voice for children, for the needs, and I have relationships with parents. And so I'm a people person. I'm not a public speaker. Usually everything that I do is behind the scenes, because I'm a team player and I work behind the scenes to do the jobs that nobody usually want to do. So one of my biggest challenges would be knowing and understanding all the talk about the budget and the bonds. And I've read it, I've looked at it, but that's not my background, that's not my expertise. So I look forward to learning about it, though. I look forward to learning about everything I need to do to be able to thrive in my position.
Thanks. Well, one of my main focuses, I would like to be on the board, is going to be putting all of our available attention and resources into the classroom, and increasing that spending right where the education happens, or the instruction happens, where a teacher inspires a kid, and where kids, dream of going further than their parents did before. All that happens in the classroom. Yet we only spend 58.3% of our maintenance and operations budget on instruction. So I think that has to change over the next few years, and I think that's the way we're going to start to see, greater strides and improvement at all levels. If we take that from 58.3 to 65%, some districts do it, that frees up millions of dollars without raising taxes, millions of dollars that can be used to bring in more teachers and to lower our student-teacher ratio and to keep the best of the best and attract the best. But with that comes challenges, because that money has to come from somewhere. And so working with a board that has traditionally been a bit fractured, in order to keep that consistent focus, I think that'll be the biggest challenge.
Ms. Halsey?
I think that the district's math and college and career readiness scores are too low. I think that at present, less than half of our students actually meet the standard of college and career ready. As I've been talking to principals and administrators across the district, they've been talking about how they are refining the curriculum, integrating it vertically so that concepts that students are learning at the high school are being introduced at lower levels in appropriate vocabulary and other ways that are age appropriate. I think that's a huge challenge for us to close that achievement gap while simultaneously making sure that we are helping up our students achieve more.
Mr. Ponce?
Okay, I think getting a higher percentage of our students ready for the second level after they come out of high school, whether it be college, learning a trade, vocation, whatever it's going to be, or even going straight into the workforce, to have them prepared, give them more options to be ready for whatever it is that they're focusing on as their next step. And then also salaries and lower health costs for our teachers and stuff, and those are the things that I'm going to try to focus on more, and those are probably the biggest struggles for a lot of the districts. But those are the things we have to focus on. If we work together as a board and communicate with our administrators and our teachers, we'll be able to, try to stay on top of it, where the teachers are not going to want to be going to another district.
Mr. Aquilini?
I think our greatest challenge in the future is the same as it is today, and that is implementing education, rigor, the value of hard work in every classroom, every day. So when I go into the classroom, my wife goes into the classroom over the last 15 years. What we actually see happening is different than what we hear about in board meetings and committee meetings and the curriculum shoppers. It's different. Some days it's great. Some days it's not so great. With some teachers it's okay, and with other teachers it's fantastic. So consistency in a cost-effective curriculum, and the resisting the urge to chase down that silver bullet curriculum. We should instead invest in our teachers and fundamental curriculums that are tried and true.
Mr. Hooper?
In terms of challenges, I really think, conceptually, rejecting the culture of okay is okay, just being satisfied with enough, shifting that. We've got great kids. We've got great staff. I think, again, that leadership line that inspires, creates an innovative environment, allows teachers really to solve a lot of those problems where those kids really come alive with their education. all of our challenges can be addressed. They can, and not all take a lot of money, if any money at all. It's all that leadership and that paradigm shift. We'll talk more about that paradigm shift, but I'd like to see the paradigm shift on the board go to one that is consensus building. Consensus is not unanimity. It's really about sharing perspective, empathy, and self-sacrifice.
Mr. Gonzalez, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I think we could all agree those are all great answers from all the candidates. What one of them went over was making our students real-world ready, and I absolutely agree with that. We've already made some advances offering certification classes in our high school, and I definitely think we need to continue to adapt our current curriculum to the current demands of the market. Thank you.
Ms. Downing, the next question will be for you to start with. What are some innovative approaches for expanding technology in classrooms throughout the district?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
What are some innovative approaches for expanding technology in classrooms throughout the district?
I'm a big fan of project-based learning. And I've researched project-based learning, and mostly they're doing a lot of that overseas, and the children and the technology and the education overseas far surpass what we're doing here. And so what I would say to that is to incorporate more project-based learning, bringing real technology into the classroom, bringing real experts into the classroom, and having everything be hands-on, where you can learn from touching it, from experiencing it, from seeing it, from believing it. That's what I believe as far as bringing technology, innovative ways to bring technology into our classrooms.
Mr. McLaughlin?
We're a little bit uneven in our application of technology in the district right now. We have a one-to-one initiative at a couple of elementaries, which puts an iPad in the hands of every kid. Yet the Miller computer lab looks like the computer lab at my freshman dorm in 1995. So there's just a real unevenness in our application. And I think to some extent we've been so focused on the technology as the cure-all to anything that may ail our kids that we've gotten away from focusing on the teachers who administer the technology and who administer the curriculum through the technology. So I want to trust the teacher, give them all the tools they need, give them the computer labs they need, give them what they're asking for, but I feel like we've gone a little bit too far in the past to give them what we think they might want instead of stopping to ask about what they need. So in the future, I think we can be smarter. We don't necessarily have to spend so much because all these things need new software, new updates, and I'm not sure we're getting a whole lot out of it. I've seen some kids playing some games, but I don't know that it's moving us forward. I mean, I know in our house we try to limit how much time you're on the screen, and it's a constant battle, but they have them all day at some of our schools. So, thanks.
Ms. Halsey?
I think our teachers are doing a great job using technology in really innovative ways. I've seen my daughter's 4th grade class flip the classroom so that she's doing her math homework for Thursday, the lesson for Thursday on Wednesday night at home on a computer, so that when she gets into the classroom on Thursday, the teacher knows what material the students have already mastered and can move on to more challenging lessons. I've also seen kindergartners in Bowie Elementary School using iPads to create these beautiful gardening journals. They're bilingual, they incorporate text as well as visuals. They're fantastic, and I encourage you to go see them. I also know that at Bonham Preschool, all of our students are income eligible, and our teachers there struggle with the fact that many of the students don't bring to the classroom the life experiences that maybe some of our more middle-class students do. And I know that teachers there are using technology to supplement those life experiences. So, for instance, we have kids at Bonham who've never seen a real pig. We don't have funds to take them on field trips to farms, but they are seeing the pigs using the iPads.
Mr. Ponce?
Expanding our technology. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, that's where we're headed. That's the way kids are learning. But I think our tech people, technology is so expensive, and it seems not to last very long. A couple of years, and there's something else, and I think our technical really need to take a good look at what we've got, where we need it. And yes, it has to be a level playing field for all the campuses, but have to be really careful with that because we get new computers or new iPads, and a couple of years later, there's something greater and better out there, and we're looking to get something else. So it's really tough, but I know that's the way we have to go, and we just have to be really careful on how we spend our money with our technology.
Mr. Roccolini?
Look, I'm a tech guy. That's how I make my money. Our kids had computers at age 6, full internet, no filtering, bring it. So don't get what I'm about to say wrong. Tech is a tool. It's not a goal. And our biggest challenge here is not emphasizing technology. We need small classes with really good teachers. A few years ago, my wife and I, we toured the United States, and we hauled our kids along with us, and we went to some of the best schools in the United States. Exeter Academy and St. Paul's. They both happen to be this. Anyway, these are fantastic schools. They've been around. Daniel Webster, okay, went to Exeter. These are fantastic schools. They've been around for 210, 225 years. When you go into their classrooms, they have no computers.
Thank you. Mr. Hoover?
The question being innovative with technology, it causes me to clarify, I think this is really about technology in the curriculum, which is really an approach to education. It's not about computers. It's about understanding the concepts of technology. Sophia is exactly right about project-based learning. When I taught in the International Baccalaureate system, we did technology. It was an area of interaction, it was called. Our technology projects, no batteries were necessary. It was all stuff that really just taught them the basics of engineering, problem solving. And so I think that's really the innovation that comes in. It's really a curricular approach and coaching teachers to bring that into their subject areas. So again, it's not about computers. I think having computers on campus should only be seen as a tool, as a means to carry out educational delivery. But I know we have an iPad at home with our kid, and I think it's just increased a lot of his screen time. I don't know if it's really helped.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Again, great answers from all the candidates. Currently in San Marcos High School, the academy program is being implemented, and I think that is a great way of innovating technology, innovating a lot of different types of curriculum. And some of that is technology focused, and some of that is more project based. When I graduated from the #1 high school in San Antonio, we didn't have a whole bunch of technology. We had a whole lot of hands-on learning. But that's not to say that technology can't be used in a way to educate certain students, especially at the Phoenix school. It's supposed to be a lot of computer-based learning. So there are some times when we can implement innovative technology, but again, it depends on the curriculum. And I can agree with Mr. McLaughlin here that sometimes that technology is not evenly distributed the way it should be. But I can also agree with some of the other candidates that technology is a tool, and it's not necessarily one thing that we should emphasize on. It depends upon the curriculum.
Ms. Downing, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
I think half of these people were reading my mind, especially Toby, and I think he was reading my mind when, because technology doesn't mean all the bells and whistles. In early childhood education, technology begins with learning how to put things together and to make them work. For example, Legos and the Lego movie. And then you just build from there. So technology doesn't have to be all the computers and a lot of money. You can start with something as simple as bricks. Thank you.
Mr. McLaughlin, the next question is for you to begin with. What is your vision of the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District, and how would you balance your vision with a competing special interest group opinion?
Okay, My vision for the San Marcos School District is that we would be a world-class school that would attract and keep everyone, all the kids within our boundaries, and that we would win back some of the kids that may have left us over the last decade, or families that might have left us over the last decade. And I think we'll do that by putting all of our focus and the resources into the classroom where the education happens. So I talked about this in my last answer. So you know, as I explained, we spend 58.3% of our M&O money on direct instruction, and increasing that will create those teacher-student connections that really propel kids forward. And by that, we'll increase our college readiness, we'll reduce our dropout rate, and the test will just be a detail. We won't have to focus on except how well we did. I think the competing interest to that is the way we've done things, where we have a bit of a bloated administration. We've spent 41.3% of our budget on things that aren't instruction. So how I would balance that is just stay focused on the goal, and anything that gets in the way of the goal, we just can't chase.
Ms. Halsey?
In my vision of the San Marcos Consolidated School District, people who move to this community in 5 years are not told not to send their kids to San Marcos Public Schools. Instead, they view the schools as an asset to the community, as one of the core strengths of this community, as one of the healthy indicators of this community. I think that we need to make sure that San Marcos is a destination district, not only for families, but for teachers and for administrators, so that they'll stick around longer than 3 years. And I think we need to stop accepting the status quo and accepting the sort of regular business as usual model where we just say, well, that's the way it is and we are okay with that.
Mr. Ponce?
My vision is for a district that will, all our children will be equal. Education, it doesn't matter where you come from. The teaching, our teachers will be well trained, have all the resources that they need, and we'll have quality buildings. Like Mike was saying, the roofs are leaking. That's why we need to keep up our maintenance, our buildings. That's part of learning. You know, if a student has a leak right next to him and he's getting wet, he just can't learn. So yes, our money does have to go towards education, but everything, the maintenance, everything is all part of it. And without one or the other, the teaching, the learning is compromised.
Mr. Otway?
My vision is an academic focus, if you haven't figured that out yet. I believe in my core that education enables choice. And choice gives people freedom. If they want to go to college, great, go. If they want to be a plumber, that's fine too. If they want to cut hair, great. But K-12 is a time to give our next generation the foundations that they need that allows them to make free choices in life. So my vision is that. There are competing views. Perhaps more folks would like to be in the football stadium, or they would like to build a scoreboard, or they would like to build an indoor football stadium, and not focus on AP chemistry, or AP physics, or algebra. It's a problem.
Mr. Hooper?
Could you repeat the question again?
What is your vision of the San Marcos Consolidated Independent School District, and how would you balance your vision with a competing special interest group opinion?
My vision would be one that we have, again, a high-performing board that sets a plan with goals. I think our goal, too, is look at the product we want to produce. That child that graduates from high school, graduates at each grade level, I see them, I envision them being someone who is ready for life, successful in life. They have academic skills, they have job skills, but they're also socially and emotionally stable and confident, and have an awareness of where they want to go in their life. When you look at that goal, then you align everything with that. I think with that, then you're going to see some great image building. You're going to see some high performance in other statistics as well. Special interests. I challenge every special interest to be involved. But they have to share their interest with others at some point, because that's what we do as board members. We should.
Mr. Gonzalez?
I believe in transparency. I believe in community involvement. And I, of course, most certainly believe in fiscal responsibility. But my title is representative at large. And first and foremost, I'm a representative. My vision is to reflect the vision of the district at large. And I believe that many of the parents and teachers and taxpayers have said they want fiscal responsibility, they want transparency, they want more community involvement. My vision is to listen to the concerns of teachers, parents, taxpayers, and constituents alike, to understand what their concerns are and adapt our policies to what they want. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
My vision would be success, success, and success. Strengthening our education, connecting the missing links, realizing the interest of the children and the community, and appreciating the strengths of the children and scaffolding learning to higher levels. Parent involvement, community partnerships, and collaboration. Everyone working together. That's what I see as a vision. On my table out there, I'm from New Jersey, and they have this model there. And on my table, I've brought some stats to show you how what I'm talking about works. And before I left New Jersey, they were ranking pretty low as far as where they were in the school districts. And now, yesterday when I was looking on the internet, they're in the top 10 places to raise their children to go to school. I think we can do that here in San Marcos, and I know how.
Mr. McLaughlin, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
70% of our kids are living at or near the poverty line. It was the same when I graduated in 1994, and that's not okay. The schools are the single most important vehicle to empower those kids to reach further than their parents did before them. We must do it now. We can't just continue to lose a generation after a generation. There's 7,500 kids in our district right now, and my vision is that we draw a circle around them, and as a community say, all that stops now. We're going to give them everything they need. We're going to empower their teachers. We're going to have these kids move San Marcos forward collectively. Thanks.
Question number 7 is for Ms. Halsey. In your opinion, what makes an effectively functioning board?
So I worked for almost 6 years for a nonprofit organization in Chicago, and I worked very closely with our board of directors there. And what I saw happen was we had a board that came from diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives, and when they got to the boardroom, they checked whatever differences they may have at the door, and then sat down together and worked cooperatively, politely, constructively, in a friendly manner with each other, and shared their perspectives and talked through differences they may have. They also worked very diligently to build consensus before going to the board table, so that when they were there, they were going through issues of relevance to the public, but they were not conducting background business that was unnecessary.
Mr. Ponce?
Listen, 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 and be open. Learn to communicate, be honest, set aside your pride. I think that's the biggest problem of ours in society today is our pride. We have to focus on the children. That's why we're up here. This is what we need to focus on. The children, our teachers, and listen to them. What is it that they need? What does the community need? How are we gonna shape children not just to be successful in academics, but they need to be respectful when they leave. Good morals, good virtues. What difference does it make if the child is the smartest student that's ever come to San Marcos High School and he doesn't know how to respect anybody?
Mr. Rockling?
So an effective functioning board, and I've been going to board meetings now since 1999, so I've seen my share of board meetings and board members, that is. And I think number one characteristic is effort. I think it's essential for whoever gets to be on the board that they do the homework, they put in the time, they make the effort, and not just attend the meeting and watch a presentation by staff. Right? The goal, the job of the board is to govern and oversee. Those are both active duties, governance and overseeing the operations of the district. And both of those duties require effort.
Mr. Hooper?
Yes, so being proactive, bringing your skills that you have learned out in the world to the board. Your professional skills, your life skills, all very important. I think too, having your emotional house in order. Talking more about consensus. You know, it's, I've been on a lot of boards. I've seen functional boards and dysfunctional boards. And the functional ones, the board members were not looking to take power. They were looking to share power, share control, and looking for consensus building. And really shifting that paradigm from a power paradigm to a love paradigm. Hang with me. So who do we love? Right? Our children. Yeah? No greater mission. So all the board members are focused on that great mission. When you are focused on that great mission, then all your decision making is made through that lens.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Cooperation is obviously a very important factor, and I'm proud to be one of 7 candidates that are very cooperative with each other. All of the candidates up here have been helping each other out, and I certainly am very impressed with that. Of course, we all need to see past our differences and understand that there are some things that we're going to agree on, some things we're going to disagree on. And especially when it comes to things that we disagree upon, we need to ask what it is that the public wants. Because as I said, we're representatives at large, and we need to represent what it is that the people want. One thing that I've noticed is several of the board trustees ask questions. Asking questions is a great thing. I know that Ms. Costilla and Mr. Crowley do a great job of asking a lot of questions, because we shouldn't assume that we have all the right answers. We should definitely go out to the people, because the people have solutions to some of our problems. The teachers have solutions to some of the problems that we have. And we shouldn't just keep discussion within the board that we have. Of course, we need to have constructive criticism, and I think everyone up here is very, very good with that.
I would say effective communication, knowing when and how to listen and when and how to speak. Agree to disagree and move forward. Be respectful of one another, be team players. I too have been impressed with how much we've been communicating with each other and supporting each other through this whole campaign. Utilizing one's strengths, I'm a big fan of that. And then willing to step out of the comfort zone. And I think a lot of the issues that's been discussed as far as education, curriculum, bonds, money, taxes, all that stuff has been the same for all these years, because people are not really necessarily prepared for change, or they're not wanting to step out of their comfort zone. And so when you have board members that are willing to do that, and at least to listen to the other side of it, I think that will make it effective board.
Mr. McLaughlin?
It's always tough to go last, and everybody has some great ideas and good things to say. I've been on several boards locally, and the ones that have functioned the best had a good culture of openness and honesty with each other. They trusted each other. They knew that they could disagree without being disagreeable. And the next time, those same two individuals might agree on something else, and they would move past it. And they wouldn't act alone. A single board member on a board of 7 has absolutely no power or authority. Only collectively, as the group or as the majority of the group, can they do anything. So you can't have a single board member or 2 board members going around on their own agenda. Everything has to come together to the team, and then you can process through it in a culture of honesty and openness and reach a consensus, a board decision, then everybody owns it. You might have lost on that one, you can argue the next time, but the action was the action of the board, and in order to move forward, you have to move forward together.
Ms. Halsey, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
I'm going to use my rebuttal to agree with what Mr. Occolini said, and that I believe board members to be effective need to have the time and the willingness to put in the work in order to understand how our schools work in the classroom.
Hi, thank you all for running. I don't think the
Identify
school board...
yourself and ask your question.
Sure. My name's David Friesenhunt. I've lived here in San Marcos for about 3 years. And I've got a 4-year-old. And when we first moved here to town, we were very excited to learn that she would be able to attend universal pre-K. And so you can imagine how disappointed we were at the beginning of this year to find out she wouldn't be attending universal pre-K because there was no universal pre-K. Now, about 1.5 years ago, the San Marcos newspaper, the Daily Record, was reporting that after the bid process took place to award the construction contract for the pre-K program, that there were no acceptable contracts or bids.
Please get to your question.
Are you satisfied with the way that the school board handled the bid process for the construction of the universal pre-K? Are you satisfied with the way that they have created the universal pre-K program? If so, why? If not, what would you have done different?
Who would you like to begin with that question?
Whoever feels brave.
Ms. Halsey?
So I'm just going to clarify a little bit what I think that you were asking about. When I voted for the bond issue several years ago in favor of building the Bonham preschool, I thought that we were going to have an income-based preschool initially, and then we were going to have an affordable tuition-based preschool. I don't think the state doesn't cover costs for for universal pre-K.
We tried to buy our way. It says we couldn't.
Well, in September you will be able to. The board just 2 meetings ago passed a preliminary program to expand the pre-K program into an affordable tuition-based program. My concern is whether or not that program is actually affordable or not. And I will give you my for instance. My son right now attends a private preschool. He goes from 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He has a student-teacher ratio of 14 to 2. I pay $435 a month for that program. The program that we'll be rolling out in the fall, which has to be cost efficient and has to be sustainable, is going to cover 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The teacher-to-student ratio will be 22 to 1.5. And the tuition will be $504.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Sure. The pre-kindergarten program is first of all, it's a fun problem to have. We've never had this opportunity in the district before. The bond voters showed a lot of support and foresight making that investment of that beautiful facility. But that's not to say it stops there. We've got to figure out a way that it can work at its very best. I'm concerned about how the program for the income qualifying students merges with the tuition-based program. I'm concerned that we might not get the numbers that we're seeking in the income-based because of the cost issue that Ms. Halsey mentioned. And I'm concerned that we're trying to have it both ways. We want to provide high-quality pre-K, which requires a low student-teacher ratio, but we're putting 25 in a classroom in order to make room for the tuition payers. So I think that's something the board's going to have to look at, and I hope that I'm elected in order to do do that at the first meeting.
Ms. Downing?
As I mentioned earlier, on my table, I have paperwork that I was able to pull off researching the program in New Jersey. And what they've done, which is what I'm hoping St. Marcus will consider, is that when they adopted their full-day program, they, to be able to accommodate all the students, they adopted classrooms, individual learning centers like what I have. And they put a district teacher in that program, in that center, so that they were able to address these issues, not spending a lot of money. They used, everything was on the budget, and they did that instead of going out and building new schools and new programs. I actually worked for that program. I actually worked for preschools. I was an administrative assistant and a family worker for that program. So I know how the program works very well, and I'm hoping to be able to be on the board voting for me so that I can share that information with the board, with others, so that we can make a difference with the preschool and how that works.
Mr. Gonzalez?
I believe in majority rule, but I also believe in minority right. And I believe that there are enough people in San Marcos who don't agree with universal pre-K from a financial perspective. I believe that there are plenty of private solutions to this problem, and the reason is because if you want your kids to go to pre-K, I'm not saying that you can't, but if you want universal pre-K, then that definitely adds a tax burden. Ms. Housey was of course saying that there are going to be some financial concerns about the tuition-based students and students that will be receiving state funding for it, and we may not be able to find the funding or the proper amount of students to be in those programs. So I respectfully disagree with the idea of universal pre-K. Thank you.
Mr. Hooper?
I am a great proponent of universal pre-K. I think what you've got here, the situation in this district, is the district trying to solve this problem without enough funding. And so they're trying to cobble together what resources they have. The plan is not perfect right now. I think it's in evolution, and it needs input from people like you, from the community, to help solve that. But in the end, it's really going to be about the state of Texas solving this issue and saying, these children are ours, we need to start them off right. I mean, there's no subject that's been studied more than education, and in a large part it's been early childhood education and its positive benefits. So once the state does that, and Governor Abbott has a good first step, he needs to go much further, but I support what he's doing right now. But right now, we need to add on pre-K like we do any other grade, and get those kids off and start off right with the right resources.
Mr. Arcolini?
So as you found out, the government pays for some kids and other folks have to pay their own way for pre-K. If we lower the teacher-student ratio, as Ms. Halsey has raised the issue, then there will pretty much be no room for the paying customers. As it stands now, there's only room for 66 paying customers at our pre-K. So we have a dilemma. If the community, but I believe, if the community wants universal pre-K, we could do that. But we cannot buy $850,000 scoreboards. We cannot buy $5.9 million central administration buildings. We can't do that. We cannot buy a $2.9 million technology and food service building. We can't do that. But we could do universal pre-K, and we could take care of you for free. But we have to make that a priority. We, not the school board, but everybody.
Your time is up. Mr. Ponce?
Yes, I agree with everybody. It's not a simple answer, but that's why we need a board that is going to be united. Be able to be open, discuss these issues that we have in our district, and work together. Work together with the administrators, superintendent, the state, and try to solve some of these issues that we have and not leave anybody out that wants pre-K.
Next question, please state your name.
My name is Susan Seaton from the San Marcos, I'm president of the San Marcos Educators Association.
that the employees of this district are not a line item in the budget. We are the children's access to the future. Although we all want to pass a balanced budget each year, class size reductions and benefit costs often make that impossible. How would you find the money? Please name at least one way to support a competitive salary and healthcare package to keep the great teachers in San Marcos.
Who would you like to start with that?
Let's go opposite and go with Ponce.
Mr. Ponce?
That's a big challenge, and I think that's a challenge for all the districts. I mean, if we could be the highest paying district for our teachers, our healthcare costs, I struggle with the same thing. I pay almost $800 a month for my healthcare and my family. And it's a concern of all of ours. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that there's people that specialize in that and know a lot about that we need to listen to and talk to and be open and try to get some of these costs down that are, it's crazy. I can't afford it.
Mr. Aquilini?
So I've gone on record saying that I believe that the school district, as a large employer, should pay the base rate of health insurance without any additional contribution for all full-time employees. That's going to cost about $1 million. For every $100 increase per month per employee of health insurance, it's another $1.2 million. Health insurance, as you know, is a runaway train. And we don't know where that's going to stop. And we have no control over it. So I'm in favor of that. The question is, where is that money going to come from? Well, I'm more inclined to pay for health insurance than I am to buy a bunch of iPads for pre-K. Or an $850,000 scoreboard. Oh, we've already got that, so whatever the next project is, I'm more apt to pay for your health insurance than to build buildings.
Mr. Hooper?
Crystallizing what Mike said, I feel very much the same way. I'll say that I think the resources are there. They just need to be realigned. If creating a better benefits package supports our teachers to deliver a better instructional service, then that's the thing that's going to elevate us to the goal of graduating that student who's academically successful with all their skills. So I think that, like Mike said, there are a lot of things that we can put our money into, but really, where do you get the bang for your buck? I mean, when I started out teaching was in a small high school in a small town, and my classroom was an old room that was in the front part of a gymnasium that was built by the WPA. Progress Administration, 1930s. So it was not a new classroom, but I did great things in that classroom, and my kids were ready for college. So it doesn't really have to be a great expenditure of dollars.
Mr. Gonzalez?
That's a great question. Toby and Mike are absolutely right. If we make better financial decisions, we can certainly be a lot more competitive for teachers, and I certainly believe in putting teachers on the top of our priority list. Let's go through a little bit of numbers. Let's compare our budget with Lockhart's budget. We currently spend 16% of our budget on our debt, whereas Lockhart spends 11% of their budget on their debt. That 5% difference of our $80 million budget is about $4 million. And let me explain the significance of that $4 million. We have 1,150 staff members in the entirety of the district. That's nurses, teachers, bus drivers, etc. If we weren't spending 16%, if we were spending 11% on our budget, and we had that extra $4 million over, we could pay every single staff member in the district an extra $300 a month. So the thing is we need to make better financial decisions so we can have that money to make our teachers more competitive. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
I agree that it's not a quick fix. In the early learning centers, I feel you. I don't know where you went, but I feel your pain because we don't have money. we don't have money coming in. Early learning centers are tuition-based, and we have to figure out that budget. We have to figure out how are we going to pay our teachers, and how, you know, me as the administrator, head of my school, how am I going to pay my teachers? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? But we look for resources. And I think that's one of the things that the district needs to do when they're trying to figure out that budget, is look to more resources. Don't be so quick to do spending. Look at the budget, see where you can shift some cost, look at what's necessary, and then prioritize. The teachers, without the teachers, the children aren't going to learn. So if we're not focusing on that, and we're putting money elsewhere that's not teaching the children, you know, then the priorities aren't straight. So I feel as though that if it was me, and I had to voice, I can't make a decision on my own, but if I had to voice my opinion, I would say to be more resourceful.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Well, it's kind of a false dichotomy between buildings and facilities and taking care of our teachers, because the voters passed bonds that we have to honor, we can't default on them. And we've got world-class facilities. We couldn't sell the scoreboard or use bond money and give it, or sell the stadium and use bond money in order to take care of their health insurance. We have to take care of all of our employees under two sources: the M&O budget, that's the $1.04 you all pay on your property taxes, or our fund balance. So I think I'm the only candidate that's been on record to say I would not support using our fund balance in order to build a building, a central administration building. I'm glad the board has waited on that, and I hope they continue to do so. We can find other ways to pay for that facility. What we need to do is move more of our money to instruction from other lines on the budget. Right now, 58.3%, I think this is the third time I've said it. If I would not support a budget that didn't spend 60% on instruction in the first year, which would free up enough money to pay the $88 all of our teachers are having to pay out of pocket per month for their own insurance. We need them healthy, we need them in the classroom, we need competitive pay. But we can't take it to the building. We've got to figure out a way to do it out of our M&O and our fund balance.
Ms. Halsey?
We currently have a very, very healthy fund balance. We have almost $30 million in our fund balance, and the TEA recommends that we have $15 million in our fund balance. One of the reasons that we have such a healthy fund balance is that the administration has consistently for the last few years been returning about $1 million to the fund balance every year out of the operations budget. We could, I think, look very closely at using that $1 million toward compensating teachers and better covering their health care expenses.
Next question. Please state your name.
Maureen Olson. Maureen Olson. I've been in San Marcos about 6 years. We all agree that having debt has negative consequences, and that to pay off the debt means that we have less money to spend on other things. This question goes to Mr. Gonzalez only, because you're the only one who has said that you would address the debt. Exactly how would you address the debt? As Mr. Okia, or whatever Mr. O has said, that we've already have the obligation to pay for whatever the bond issues are. How are you going to address the debt exactly?
Mr. Gonzalez, would you begin with that, please?
That's a great question, and John and Mike are right that we do have to honor those bonds. When I said that our current debt was $177,995,000 as of 2014, that also comes at a total cost of $300 million of bonds fully mature by 2038. Now, as John and Mike have said, we already have to honor those bonds. What we can do now, budget very, very wisely, very cautiously between now and 2038, because if we have more bonds passed between now and 2038, then we're going to be spending a lot more than $3 for every $1.70 we spend. If we continue to pass tens of millions of dollars of bonds between now and 2038, that $1.07 that we borrow today is going to turn into a lot more money later. So unfortunately, there's not much we can do to already address our debt problems other than budget more wisely between now and 2038 so we don't increase those.
What you're saying is that you will budget wisely, but not that you're going to address the debt.
We need to move on and let them answer the question that they have on the floor now. Ms. Downing? You all have a chance. You all have a minute to address the question.
He's the only one that said that he was going to address
Everyone has a chance to answer.
Well, sure, if they want to.
Again, budgeting is a very sensitive issue. As I mentioned before, that's one of the areas that I'm going to learn, that I'd like to learn more about once being on the board, or once voted for. I do know that, again, working in early childhood education, we don't get money from outside sources. And so we have to be resourceful, we have to budget, we have to use resources. And I believe that one way of reducing that debt is doing just that. Looking at where the money is available, getting more volunteers, collaborating with Texas State, instead of spending money, seeing what the students can come in. A lot of those students have to do volunteer hours for their organizations. And if we utilize more things like that, utilize more resources like that, I think we can save a lot of money right there.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Quickly, I think we have to be wise about our debt load and our debt load per student, because San Marcos we've heard for 20 years that we're on the verge of a population explosion. But if it comes, in the next 5 or 10 years, and we build another elementary or two, another middle school, maybe a second high school campus, and we don't, if the projections of growth are correct, we're going to have to put the kids somewhere. And sure, our tax base will increase, but we have to be mindful of that, and we have to only put to the voters those things we truly need in the way of facilities, or else it could get in the way of our instructional dollars and other things if we had a debt load. Or we could have to borrow at a higher rate, which would put a higher bill to the taxpayers. So we've got to be wise, we've got to pay down what we have, and be smart about what we extend any further.
Salty?
I think we're in a really reasonable spot in terms of our debt load. The state mandate maximum is 50 cents. We're at 0.35. And we are less than Wimberley, less than Dripping Springs, less than Comal. We are higher than Hayes, Eanes, and Navarro. But debt load is cyclical depending on your facility needs. And I think that we've done a good job of keeping that very manageable.
Mr. Hooper?
So bond debt like that, it's really all about the return on investment. Are we getting our return on investment? I think we're doing well in managing that debt. If you can manage debt properly, then it's okay, unless it becomes too much. And I would not add any more to that. I certainly wouldn't build a new administration building. I think I would put that money toward other priorities. But another thing that hasn't been spoken much about, and that is the fund balance. It's what we call in my world days of cash on hand, and it really proves your solvency. It's not just a pot of gold that you can raise whenever you want. So you have to be very prudent when you're looking at that number and using it as a resource to apply somewhere else.
Mr. Rockley?
So buried in our tax rate of $1.41 is the debt service. And buried in Wimberley's tax rate of $1.30 is debt service. So when folks come to look at San Marcos and they say, well, I can pay you guys $1.41 for your return on investment, for your test scores, for your academic focus, for your scoreboard, or I could go to Wimberley for $1.30 and I can check them out. How are they doing? Pretty good. For Dripping Springs, really good. We're going to have a problem recruiting folks. Debt. Debt's typically measured by thousands per student. We have $24,000 worth of debt per student. Hayes has $17,000. New Braunfels has $17,000. Every time we borrow money to build facilities that are not geared towards expanding our classrooms, we raise that ratio. We are very high at $24,000 per student.
Mr. Pomsey?
Yes, I agree. The debt is, we definitely need to pay it down, and that's, I don't have very much to say about the debt because that's not one of my strong points, but I know that we have to work on getting it down. And it's just like any household, you've got to get your debt down before you can keep spending. And we need to be smart and make good decisions and learn from the mistakes that we've made. You know, a lot of districts make mistakes and always have the community out there questioning what's being done, but we just need to be smart about all those decisions and get that debt down.
We'll take one more question from the audience. Name, please.
Gabrielle Moore, speaking on behalf of the Board of Sustainable San Marcos. Recently, SMCISD has shown support for sustainable waste management by increasing recycling and composting in their school cafeterias. However, SMCISD continues to use polystyrene foam food trays and containers for students. Long-term environmental and health costs of polystyrene foam far outweigh the cheap upfront costs of the material. Alternatives include recyclable trays or good old-fashioned dishes. The use of polystyrene foam has already been banned by City Council near the river, and Chartwell's has implemented a ban in the Texas State University dining halls. Would you, as a trustee, be willing to vote to ban polystyrene foam in the school district? And we'll start with Ann Halsey.
In the last 5 years, I've eaten the last school lunches. My kids eat school lunch nearly every day, and I am delighted that in the last year, the elementary schools have all gone to a composting recycling program. I'm still horrified that school lunches are served every day on styrofoam, and I would absolutely vote to stop that.
Mr. Ponce?
Yeah, I see that, I know all the schools at Hayes are doing that, all the compost, and it's, I think I would definitely support that, and I think it's good for the environment and everything.
Mr. Appleby?
Yes.
Yes, in fact, my employer was the largest healthcare provider in Central Texas, 11 hospitals. We developed a green team, which is really a response to the waste ordinance that the city of Austin passed. So on that green team, which I think we could model, I think we could have a community group that could drill down on solutions and present a proposal to the board on what things we could eliminate and how we could do it. I know we're on the verge of getting rid of styrofoam. We found a lot of complexity in how it was entering into the network. But through that process, we've been able to come up with a plan to address that. And actually stepping forward to a model that the University of Texas has a composting program where they make their own compost. It's called free mix or something like that. Anyway, they compost a lot of things that come out of their
Mr. Gonzalez?
I think the compost and recycling is great. In terms of the polystyrene foam, ultimately that's going to be a question of cost versus benefits, especially when we talk about cost. We have 70% of students that are economically disadvantaged. Our household median income is fairly low, about $45,000. So we can't do everything that's absolutely ideal. However, if we look at the long-term effects and long-term cost, if getting rid of foam is a good thing, then I'd absolutely be for it. It's something I'd like to have more discussion on before I make a final decision. And if I may follow up with the gentleman's question earlier, would that be all right?
Rest of your opinion.
Thank you. Unfortunately, a lot of the damage in terms of our debt is already done, and trying to address it is certainly going to be difficult. It's all a question about where that money's going to come from. One thing that we've done earlier is refinance our debt. If we can find other solutions to refinance our debt to bring that down, we can. We can do our best to pay off that principal ahead of time, but again, it's a question of where that money comes from. The most effective thing we can do now is budget very, very responsibly from now on. Thank you.
Ms. Downing?
At my learning center, we compost. We've partnered up with a gardener that's right down the street from us, and any fruits and vegetables that kids don't eat, we compost them when we give them to him. We recycle, and I have that same problem every time I'm buying supplies for my school. How much money do I have to spend this budget time? And do I buy the styrofoam because it's on sale, or do I buy the recyclable because it's better? And most of the time, I'm having to buy the recyclable because it's better. And we're trying to teach our children to recycle. We're trying to teach our children there at the Learning Center to take care of the community. So sometimes it's just better to spend the extra money if it's for the long-term environmental reasons than to shortchange and say, okay, I'm gonna just buy this because it's on sale or it's special when it's gonna harm the community or the environment.
Mr. McLaughlin? Yeah.
Okay, total focus, improving student performance through investing in more resources in the classroom. If we can find, that's an aspirational goal, I think that I would support. We need to find a revenue neutral way to do it so that we don't take money out of the classroom in order to chase that or the next or the next or the next idea. But I'm sure there's ways. There's lots of innovation going on out there. There's new stuff all the time, and I hope our district embraces that very early once we find a way to make that a revenue neutral change.
I would just like to congratulate all of the candidates that we've had here this evening. It's not easy to run for public office. Put yourself out there in front of everyone. And I think we have 8 candidates here for 3. Have a great deal of choice this year, and that's a really good thing. Closing remarks. You each have 1 minute to close. We'll begin with Ms. Hall.
When I decided to run for the board, my daughter and I made a deal. She said to me, Mommy, if you run for the school board, then next year I'll be brave and run for the 5th grade school council. I'm committed to my daughter and to all of our children. Our schools deserve a vocal and visible champion, and with your vote on May 9th, I will be that champion. As your board member, I will act professionally, with integrity, and with common sense. I have managed multi-million-dollar corporate and nonprofit budgets. I have hired, trained, and supervised staff. I am a consensus builder. I will bring a fresh perspective and my extensive experience as I work in good faith with the administration and other members of the board, and as I listen to the community to address our students' needs. Although there is more work to be done, we have made great gains. I have the vision, the experience, and the work ethic to help make San Marcos Schools the rising star of Central Texas. Together, we will lead our district to even better days.
Mr. McLaughlin.
I mentioned at the outset that I've come to these debates many times. 3 years ago and 3 years before that, I've come to a school board debate where there were a lot of candidates who had a lot of good stuff to say. I never left thinking, damn, that one person. And everyone here is dedicated to the kids and wants what's best for the school. I feel this election is a very critical juncture. We've got to improve student performance in order to be the destination district that we want. In order for the San Marcos economy to thrive, we've got to do a great job educating every child in our school system. We can't have 10% of them dropping out. We can't have 44% of them, only 44% of them being college ready. That takes focus and dedication and vision. It takes an established history of leadership and accomplishment. So you as voters, I hope this year will elect the 2 candidates you feel best fit that. We didn't get to everything tonight. I welcome you to visit my website, johnwmclaughlin.com, where I got to everything that we didn't reach. Thank you for your engagement.
Ms. Downey.
It's been a pleasure being here this evening, and thank you all for your listening ears. I don't know if you've noticed, but my initials are Sophia, SCD, and the initial of the acronym is San Marcos Consolidated, SMCISD. And I like to think that I'm the missing link. And I have on my table out there that when you vote for me, you join my quest to advocate and educate about the importance of early childhood education. Understand the importance of early childhood education as the foundation for learning. Want to make a serious change in the poor educational outcomes of our district. Believe children learn differently, therefore education should be dynamic, flexible, individualized, and engaging. Believe in parents, schools, and communities as partners for the education of our youth. Support use of community resources and partnerships as curriculum building instead of excessive spending, dittos, and teaching to test. And understand that it takes a team effort and a fresh approach to make the necessary changes to our district.
Mr. Gonzalez.
I believe that principles drive decisions, and it's important to know what your principles are because there are decisions that are going to happen later on, and those principles will drive how you solve those problems. I believe in financial responsibility. I've said that plenty of times. I'm great with numbers, and it's something that I take a huge responsibility for. I obviously believe in transparency, and I'm glad that our current board has been wanting to televise school board meetings, and we can certainly improve upon some of those things. Of course, I want more community involvement. I think the turnout in school board meetings is too low. We need more people there so we can represent the vision that the district wants, represent what it is that everyone else wants. In closing, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this debate. I think they did a great job. Additionally, I'd like to thank all the candidates for running, because we do have some really great candidates running. Thank you all so much.
Mr. Hooper.
With all I've said about consensus building and high-performing school boards, I want you to know that I'm not an idealist. These are things that I've seen in practice that have really produced results in the body of people who are focused on the mission. I was fortunate enough today to catch the very end of the Austin Chamber of Commerce's Education Progress Report they do every year. And they talked a lot about college readiness, what the jobs were in the area, and what schools really need to do. That tells me that that is an engaged community. I want us to keep this energy. Look at all of you here. Look at all these candidates up here. Keep this energy, because too many people in our community and organizations are not being tapped on to be linked into the school district, so that collectively we can uplift our children, because our children and their success is our greatest mission we have.
Stewardship of our taxes, we can do better. We're spending too much money on buildings and not enough in the classroom. Academic achievement, we can do better. Only 1 out of 10 of our high school seniors has a competitive SAT or ACT score. 1. Community involvement. We can do better. It is time for our school board to take responsibility for public education in San Marcos and not leave it up to whoever happens to be the superintendent. Those of us that live in this community long term not only pay for our schools, but also have a vested interest in its success. Thank you for your confidence, and I ask for your vote.
Yes, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. Our graduation rate, we need to keep working on that. We've got a lot of work to do. Get our students ready for the next level, whether it be university, college, ready for the workforce, technical schools, and even high school with the vocation, to be productive citizens. Hold our superintendent accountable. That's our main goal, is to stay on the superintendent. Parent involvement. I know a lot of parents would love to be out in the schools, kind of the way it is all the time at the school, but a lot of them have to work and are not able to do that, and we have to find ways to get those parents involved with their children. And our teachers, our staff, salaries, work on those, stay focused on them. That's going to be one of my top priorities, and then also with the health care, getting that to help them. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the candidates, and thank you to the audience and those who so important. Remember, early voting began today and continues till May 5th, and election day is May 9th. And remember that your vote